Blois, in an area of France known as Les Jardins de France, the Gardens of France. And it's one of the most beautiful towns that I've visited since I started my walk. In France, I'm very impressed by Saint-Omer, but something about Blois that's quite incredible. It's mostly 16th century town, situated on the banks of the river Loire, and it has one of the most astounding chateaus in the region. There are several chateaus in this whole area of France, but the thing about Blois is that the chateau there is built on a promontory that overlooks the Loire, so it's got some natural height. Obviously that's where you build a fortress of any kind, and the cathedral on the other side of the old town is also elevated. So what you find is you've got all these stone staircases and narrow cobbled streets, and you can find yourself in just a number of different places looking at everything from a different angle. The way the evening light falls on the chateau is astounding, and the early morning light on the little church over there. Even I sometimes see the early morning light. I've seen the light. But yeah, it's not a town for red open-top buses, but horse-drawn carriages. But yeah, I'm amazed. You can be walking along one street, and suddenly you're looking down over the rooftops of the town, set lower by the banks of the Loire, and then you can be walking up a stone staircase and discovering a narrow cobbled street which is shaded, and at the bottom there's just a pool of light. Of course, the other thing that is amazing about all that kind of architecture are the iron balconies, balustrades, and the shuttered windows of these white stone buildings that reflect the sunlight in just such a glorious luminosity. So this is the one facade of the chateau. If I walk up this street here, which goes past the tourist office, we'll find the courtyard where the horse-drawn tourist carriages depart from. It's probably a pleasant little 25-minute trot around the town. But it's great. I've just enjoyed sitting in various cafes at different elevations, either looking down a staircase or an up a staircase, or sat in a courtyard, just watching the way the sunlight hits various buildings, all the different shapes and the shadows and the light. It must be a photographer's dream. I'm not a great photographer, but I'm sure it's attracted many a photographer. Black and white or colour, it would still bring about a amazing diversity of shapes and images and shades. There's the front of the chateau. Another little staircase, only a little one, this one, up into the courtyard in front of the chateau. Joan of Arc, of course, also associated with the area, arrived here in 1429, a few days before going off to liberate Orléans, like you do when you're a 17-year-old girl, suddenly put in charge of the armies of France on behalf of who you perceive to be the rightful king. I'm sure he was, Charles VII, the then Dauphin. So you go through that little archway there, and part with €7, you can have a little tour of the chateau too. A couple of little cafes. Sun illuminated building at the end there. If we go down this way, you see, we'll go over here first. Setting up for dinner at the restaurant over there. I don't know if you can make it out on here, but they're the rooftops of Blois Sud, over the other side of the Loire. So you can see how high up the chateau is here, peering down on everything with all that history. And we walk to the end of this courtyard. It's been in the low 30s today. Absolute ripper of a day. Good one for sitting around under the shade of a sombrella rather than striding out. Time that one well, Spruty. Yeah. Over here, and you can see there's suddenly a staircase that takes you back down to some of the more commercial areas of the town. There was a market down here this morning. I go down the steps. I'm not going to count them. Just going to try not to